Cruising is unlike anything else. Our 3 cruise lines travel to every corner of the globe, providing exceptional guest experiences to see, understand, and appreciate the world from a whole new perspective. It's at the heart of what we do. The future of our business is dependent on the beauty and wonder of our planet.
Our Sail and Sustain program is our commitment to cruising responsibly and protecting the oceans we love. We focus on making a real difference both at sea and on shore, because cruising depends on healthy oceans and thriving communities. It's how NCLH shows guests, employees, and investors that we are serious about reducing our footprint, creating value for our investors, meeting global sustainability goals, and staying ahead of regulations.
So thank you all for coming. Welcome. I'm the new dean of the Rosenstiel School. I've been here just slightly over a semester. When I was in the first 30 days, I said everyone had to be kind to me. Now I'm in my second semester, so people still have to be kind to me. I'm still learning my way. I have a few small things that they give me a big list here, but I have a few things I have to do. I'm taking out my phone, and I am silencing my phone, just like all of you should do. So, job 1 done? You happy with me? Okay, good. Okay, today we're starting at 6, and of course we have a reception following. We're kind of revamping Sea Secrets this year, and so the next Sea Secrets is going to be at 5:30. Make sure you pay attention to those announcements when it comes out and sign up to come. It's going to be a good one, I promise. Unfortunately, Will Drennan, who's been intimately involved with our Galapagos program for a number of years, is unable to make it tonight. He's the flu. It's going around. So we're going to miss Will, but we've got a fantastic program for you that I'll tell you about in a moment. I do like to take a few moments to thank our sponsors. Our presenting sponsor, Norwegian Cruise Lines. This is the second year they've been our presenting sponsors. You saw that lovely video from them. And of course, our supporting sponsors, the Shepherd Broad Foundation. And I always like to call out one of my favorite sponsors. I'm probably not supposed to say that. Mr. William Galway, who is not only a sponsor of Sea Secrets and Climate Cafe and whatever else mess I make, he bails me out. So thank you, Bill, as always. The KB Life Enhancement Forum, the Key Biscayne Community Foundation, the Joan McGoffin Family Foundation, Nicole and Myron Wang. Are you guys here? There they are. Good to see you guys. And of course, Southern Glaciers Wine and Spirits. And then at the bottom of my paper here, it says, we have a lot to cover, so move it along. I think that's for me, right? Tonight's program, as you know, highlights the Galapagos program here at the Rosenstiel School. We call it UGalapagos. It's a semester study abroad. You're going to hear from some of our students, some of the faculty that teach in that program, some of the faculty that designed that program. I promise you this is going to be fantastic. Just chit-chatting with these students, or listening in on them, talking to others. It's amazing what they got from that program. They're ready to go back any day. You offer another opportunity to go back, they'll go back. It's a fantastic program. It's one of 15 study abroad programs here at the university, and it is the most popular one of all those 15, and there's a reason for it. It's really cool. It's the Galapagos, okay? You're going to hear from Professor Mike Schmale, who I'm going to introduce in a few moments. You're going to hear from undergraduates, John Jute. Did I say that last name right? Jute. Thank you. Rebecca Lacey, our MPS program director, Evan D'Alessandro, MPS student Eliana Bucay. Look at that. I got something right for once in my life. And we'll close with Professors Richard Coleman and Rachel Hewer in our Department of Marine Biology on how we'll be integrating teaching and research for the future. This program, among many other programs here at the Rosenstiel School, is all about hands-on learning. We are in this incredibly unique situation here at the Rosenstiel School. We are the only subtropical marine school in the world, in the entire world. And we are dedicated to providing our students with hands-on learning experiences. This UGalapagos program is a critical element of giving our students, both undergraduates and graduate students, an opportunity to do hands-on research. And so it's a fantastic program. I'm going to be introducing Mike Schmale. Mike is a professor of marine biology and ecology here at the Rosenstiel School. He's been here for over 4 decades. He needs some kind of award for that, right? We should do something for him. His research focuses on something really interesting. He's been doing it for years, but it's just now really starting to explode in intention. And that is marine biomedical research. And that's using those critters in the ocean to learn more about humans and understand humans. And one of the things that Mike has been doing is he's using aquatic animals. Aplysia is one of the ones he's most famous for. Aquatic animals to study human disease. And so we're hopeful, and I'm sure Mike has been working on this for a long time. He worked on damselfish. What diseases did you guys study? Cancer. And, we're going to find, going into the future, that the ocean is a great source for understanding disease in humans, drug discovery, all these kinds of fabulous things. And, Mike basically set the stage for that internationally and at the Rosenstiel School. And I think we're going to be famous for it, and that's largely due to Mike's efforts. In addition to teaching, Mike has also, for a very long time, he was the associate dean here for infrastructure. And so Mike led the effort to build that beautiful new building with that air-sea interaction tank. I'm not really going very fast, am I? That beautiful air-sea interaction tank, the beautiful biology labs, Mike really made sure that building got off the ground. Soon after that building was built, I had the pleasure of being the associate dean for research here for a while, and Mike kept me out of trouble. I kept looking for trouble, and Mike said, no, don't do that. And so he was a great mentor as I learned the ropes of being the associate dean for research. And the very sad news is that Mike has decided to retire. So congratulations, Mike, on your retirement. The good news is he's not going anywhere. So Mike will be with us for some time to come. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Ben, for that very generous introduction. Yeah. All right. So I'm sorry Will couldn't make it tonight, but I'm also happy because I love to talk about the Galapagos. I was one of the first professors to teach there in 2010, and I've been going back every year since to teach in the spring semester, so for 15 years. And what I want to do tonight is talk to you about where we're working in Galapagos and a little bit about the history of our program and why we as a marine school would want to be running a semester abroad program or a graduate program in the Galapagos, aside from it being a very cool place. So I think we all know where the Galapagos is, about 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador. It belongs to Ecuador, the country that controls it. And this is an illustration of the islands. They lie along the equator. Now, the Galapagos are volcanic islands formed much like the Hawaiian Islands, although they're a lot younger than the Hawaiian Islands. But particularly the eastern islands there, Isabela and Fernandina, are very volcanically active. The volcano on Fernandina last erupted in 2024, and the one closest to where we work on Isabela erupted in last erupted in 2018. And you're not going to hear about it too much tonight, so I'll just mention it briefly that we also have a very active volcanology, geology program led by one of our professors here, Dr. Falk Amalong, who's worked on those volcanoes for many decades. So our students get to see those as well. And the two islands with most habitation are Santa Cruz and San Cristobal. Between them, they have about 30,000 residents. And then there's a few hundred people living on Floriana and about 2,000 people living in the small village of Porto Villamil, where we have our headquarters for the program. Most of the rest of Galapagos is just wild national park. People can't live there. They're not allowed to live in those other areas. So it makes it very cool. So zooming in a little bit on Porto Villamil, it's surrounded on 3 sides by parkland and 1 side by the ocean with a beautiful white sand beach. But we travel to many other places in the Galapagos for our field trips to expose the students to a lot of different habitats. But there's some really cool things right here next to where we're based in Porto Villamil that make it super convenient and useful for our teaching. So one thing is that right here on this beach is the largest breeding ground for marine iguanas in the Galapagos. And I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. And then over here on this side of town, just a short walk from the town, are a couple of really wonderful lagoons where it's very easy to go and snorkel. And I'll show you a picture of those in a few minutes. And that's a great resource for us as well. And then our headquarters, which I'll show you more about in a minute, is located in this part of the town. So this shows you the breeding grounds, and female marine iguanas come out of the nearby mangroves and other areas during late January and stay there through early March to dig burrows and lay eggs. It's an example of a female that's dug out a burrow. She seems very pleased with herself. She may now lay 1 to 6 eggs, cover them up, and then she'll leave. And the eggs will incubate in the sand and hatch in a couple of months, and we'll have lots of little bitty iguanas running around there. This is my favorite lagoon. It's just a short walk from our headquarters there. It's called the Concha de Perla. It's a little less than 100 yards across. It's very shallow. You can see dozens of species of fish and invertebrates there, as well as sea turtles, sea lions, penguins, marine iguanas. It's a fabulous place, very accessible, and it makes my life teaching there, teaching marine ecology, so much easier that this is a place I can go to all the time. It's also very useful for our studies on invasive marine species that you'll hear about a little bit later. So, all of this is made possible by our host NGO in Galapagos, the Intercultural Outreach Initiative, or IOI. This was founded about 20 years ago by Professor Sarah Meltzoff, who was a professor here for many years in environmental science and policy, and one of her former graduate students, Johan Besserer. So Sarah had been studying the political ecology of the Galapagos for many years and bringing classes of graduate students there to do intensive field courses. And then in about 2005, she and one of her graduate students, Johan, decided that it would be a fantastic idea to establish an NGO there that would both serve the needs of the local community and provide a resource for American universities, primarily University of Miami, to run educational programs there. And so after many years of hard labor to establish all the paperwork and legal permissions that were required, Johan was able to create this entity of IOI that we were then able to take advantage of for these programs. And Johan built a terrific team there headed by Sarah Luz. I want to introduce all these people to you. Sarah Luz was there in the beginning in 2010 when we taught our first spring semester and later added a fall semester in 2015. And these folks take care of all the permits, the logistics of the field trips, our research permits with the park, and very importantly, they set up and manage the homestays that allow our students to spend this semester with local families, which I think is our students would agree is a very important part of their study abroad experience. And this is our facility there. This is the IOI facility that they create and maintain. The first floor is offices and meeting rooms. Second floor are the faculty living quarters where we stay when we're teaching there. And then the third floor is a classroom. And this shows the classroom here. It's a very nice facility. So why would we want to have a scientific program teaching and doing research in the Galapagos? Well, everybody's familiar with the idea that the theories of evolution by natural selection developed by Darwin were in a large part influenced by his experiences in the Galapagos, in particular trying to understand all these different species of very similar looking but different finches that he saw there. And subsequent studies of these species showed us what a great field laboratory Galapagos is for understanding the fundamentals of evolution and the forces of natural selection. Okay, fine, but why do we want to study marine species there? I mean, why do we want to study marine science in Galapagos? Well, there's a lot of iconic marine species that many people aren't familiar with, such as Galapagos penguins. We've already seen the marine iguanas. The Galapagos sea lion, another endemic species. When I say endemic, I mean only found in the Galapagos. And the very weird and wonderful flightless cormorants. And when I first arrived in Galapagos, I was amazed to learn that something like a third of the fish species there are endemic. And that really surprised me. So basically I was thinking, well, why is this? Why are there so many endemic species in the marine environment here? And why this weird combination of species? And the answer is, it's because of the oceanography. So now I want to give you a little bit of Oceanography 101 as it applies to the Galapagos. So the Galapagos Islands are bathed in the southern equatorial current. And this current is made up of a warm current that comes down from Panama and some cold currents that come up from the coast of South America. These currents are pushed by the trade winds, and the trade winds shift seasonally, and that determines how much of the warm versus the cold currents are coming over the Galapagos, which determines the seasonality in the Galapagos. But then the really interesting thing that is layered on top of that, or rather underneath that, is the equatorial undercurrent. This is a deep current that runs across the entire Pacific Ocean along the equator, and then upwells when it hits the western side of the Galapagos like a fire hose against a brick wall. This water just streams up against the western coast of the Galapagos. And this is cold, nutrient-rich water. And this is really the secret sauce of the Galapagos marine environment. This is what really drives the life there. So this is a satellite imagery showing the watercolor as reflecting chlorophyll content in the surface waters. And here you can see that the red is higher chlorophyll content, which indicates higher phytoplankton concentrations. And one of the first things you notice is that the surrounding ocean is kind of blue. It's got very low productivity. Like a lot of tropical oceans, it's sort of a desert. Whereas as soon as you get to that area around the Galapagos, particularly the western edge, you see this bright red color, and that's because the upwelling is driving enormous productivity. And that's what's allowing these huge schools of fish to thrive in Galapagos. I mean, more biomass than you typically see in a tropical island. I'll just show you a few examples there. This is a school of maybe hundreds of thousands of endemic Galapagos thread herring with a black-tipped shark thinking about having a little lunch. And then this goes all the way up the food chain to the large predators like scalloped hammerhead sharks. And you can also see that these sharks are surrounded by lots of little fish. There's tons of biomass in this picture. This also supports a huge population of seabirds, all different kinds of species of seabirds in very large numbers. This is the iconic blue-footed booby, one of our favorite species in Galapagos. Of course, you can see the bird on the right, you can all tell is the male, right? And the one on the left is a female because their blue feet are not the same. Robin's egg versus periwinkle blue. And these animals are feeding on those schools of small fish. So here you can see blue-footed boobies plunge diving right on the beach, right in front of these little kids waiting in the water. This is right out in front of where we work at IOI. And the birds are diving in about 3 feet of water. They don't care the kids are there. And they just keep coming and coming and coming. Right. So this is what supports things. Now, the other thing that's amazing about this marine ecosystem is that it is one of the most sensitive systems in the world to perturbations by El Nino. Now, we all know what El Nino is. We've all heard of this. And in the Galapagos, El Nino is reducing the trade winds. And as those trade winds are reduced in velocity and extent, that's reducing the equatorial undercurrent. And that the mechanisms for that are a little convoluted. I won't go into the details now. But this reduction in the equatorial undercurrent then reduces the upwelling, which reduces the nutrient inputs to the system, and also then increases the water temperature because there's less cold water there. And overall then, this results in a collapse of the marine food web there. And that can lead to the mass mortality of many marine species in the Galapagos. And we have seen in severe El Nino events, like in 81, 82, which is one of the most severe ones for Galapagos on record, where a significant percentage of the sea lions, marine iguanas, and penguins died off. And three marine species, a damselfish, a starfish, and a common marine algae, went extinct. So these were endemic species that didn't live anywhere else, and now they're gone. And that's a really rare thing to have happen to a marine species. So this is a great place for studying marine science and climatology and the interaction between these complex oceanographic features and the marine ecosystem, the fish, the invertebrates, the marine mammals, everything. And so with that, rather than talk about the courses in the curriculum that we offer, I'm going to turn this over to the first of our students, Rebecca Lacey, who's going to tell us a little bit about her experiences. She's a veteran of the fall undergraduate study abroad semester. Rebecca?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Lacey. Hi. And I'm so excited to talk to you about my semester abroad in the Galapagos. This was fall of 2024, so about a year and a half ago now. And yeah, let's get into it. So the Galapagos program through Rosenstiel is very special in that all the courses that you take either directly count for your major and minor or can be used as an upper level elective, which is fantastic because otherwise I would not have been able to study abroad. You typically take 5 courses while you're there, starting with political ecology. And then after that, it switches from semester to semester by a little bit. So my semester, it was, political ecology, and then oceanography, marine vertebrate zoology, geology, and then biophysical dynamics in the ocean. There are quite a few benefits to studying abroad in the Galapagos. Some of them are more expected than others. So some of the expected ones is that you get to spend a lot of time with your professors. There's a professor in every single photo up there. Good luck trying to find them. And you have a chance to ask them a lot of questions and learn about their field. You're studying with experts in their field, so it's a perfect opportunity to speak with them. You also get assigned a wonderful host family. They'll take you all over the island to all of their favorite spots and invite you to attend family events. So this big picture right here, that was a huge family picnic that I was invited to. We went hiking down into the sulfur mines, or by the sulfur mines, and then back up to the top of the volcano, had a huge picnic, and it was so much fun. You also get to go on a ton of adventures with your cohort, and in doing so, you get very close. You get very close with your cohort. You will see a ton of incredible things that you wouldn't necessarily see anywhere else on the planet. And there is supposed to be a video there, but that's okay. So I'll take, sorry? Perfect, a video. Okay, a photo. So I'm going to take a second to talk about the unexpected benefits that I found while I was studying abroad. As an early undergrad, you don't necessarily think about it, but participating in the early labs such as biology, everything there is super structured and super well thought out before you even begin the experiment. The process is handed to you. In the Galapagos, you get to come up with your own projects. With a group or independently, you develop your own procedures. You implement them in the field. You get to see what works and what doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and try again. That experience gave me the confidence in the skills I had learned through those entry-level labs to go out into the field and do an experiment that I want to try because I'm interested. So that knowledge was super helpful when I came back to start my thesis. And I know that knowledge will be super helpful in the future, going to graduate school or developing my career. So, in the element of facing the unknown, I thought I would show some photos of my friends and I facing the unknown together and having a fantastic time. So here we are. This is day one. We're recreating the photo of the Beatles. Halfway through the semester spring break, we met Darwin himself on San Cristobal. And then this is us scuba diving over spring break, and then our weekly surf trips to the surf beach. And here we are in a cave for our geology class. I am sunburnt, but having a fantastic time. And then there we are watching the Miami football team play FSU, and you can tell from our faces that we're very nervous about the score. Overall, I had a fantastic time in the Galapagos. It is one of my favorite things to talk about, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out or stop me if you ever see me around. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, now it's my pleasure to introduce John Yutt, who was one of our students last spring, and I had him in my class. It was great working with him. John?
Hello, everyone. As Dr. Schmale said, my name is John Yutt. I am a very recent graduate here at UM. I walked last month, no, thank you. And I was a part of the spring 2025 cohort, which actually there are students there in the Galapagos now. So a year ago, pretty much to this day, I was in the Galapagos starting this adventure. So a little bit about what I'm going to talk about, super quick. I'm going to go a little bit in depth into the courses that I took in the spring, which were a little bit different from what Rebecca talked about. And then just a few key takeaways talking about my favorite parts of the experience and how I feel like it's prepped me for the future for graduate school. So, political ecology, which is one of the classes that was the same as Rebecca. This serves as an orientation to the Galapagos. You get to learn about the community of Isabela and the history. You also get to interview residents. So this was the main project that we did. We would go around talking with people in Spanish about their life histories and also about different local topics. So the topic that my group looked at was the airport expansion that they were considering on Isabela and what people thought about that. And so you can see over here these are two photos of the airport. So this is their landing strip, which is pretty small. So it's a very tiny airport, and so we were getting people's opinions on that, and at the end of this, you bring up a pretty long report about your findings and what you found in the interviews. So terrestrial biology is the next class that I took, where you get to discuss the characteristics of local reptile and bird species. You get to conduct a week-long research project on a reptile of your choice. I decided to look at marine iguanas, which you can see there's 3 of them down there just hanging out together. You get to practice your bird identification, and then one of the things that we did as well was write up 2 different papers about unique bird behaviors of species in the Galapagos, which is really interesting to learn about. And then marine ecology of the Galapagos. This was, if you ask anyone, not only their favorite class, but the most rigorous class that we took while we were there. And so you got to snorkel 3 to 4 hours a day on Isabela, as well as Floriana Island, which was a really awesome experience. But this does not include lecture. So we were also in class on top of this. So you can imagine that those days were really long, but really awesome because, as you can see from these photos, we got to see some really cool stuff. And so for this, we independently developed a research project, and you had to perform all the field work for it. And this included things like creating data sheets, determining the methodology that you wanted to use, and then running statistical analyses. So pretty in-depth. We have marine conservation biology. In this class, we got to learn about how Galapagos species have been affected by human activities, as well as Dr. Schmale was saying El Nino. So there are a lot of species in the Galapagos that are severely affected by this weather event. And we got to kind of learn about that and what that means for those species, and use models to visualize population trends over time. And then something that I really enjoyed was keeping a field journal of observations and including really bad drawings. So you can see here, this was a really cool land iguana that I saw, and then below that is my rendition of it, which, not the best. I wouldn't call it Picasso, but I gave it my best shot. So I found that to be a lot of fun. And then something that was really cool to learn about was the origin and geology of the Galapagos Islands. So in this class, we got to hike across lava flows, up volcanoes, and learn how the islands were formed, as well as compare and contrast them to Hawaii, which is something that Dr. Schmale mentioned, since both are volcanic islands. And then you got to visit various geological formations on Isabela. And you can see this photo over here was when we were camping on top of one of the volcanoes, and just a beautiful, beautiful view. And so the best part for me really was not only getting closer with my cohort. I got really close with my cohort, and some of the best friendships that I have now are with those people. And that, I think, was not something that I necessarily was expecting going in, but when you are on an island for 3 months with the same group of people, you end up getting really close to them. So it's really awesome friendships were formed during my time there. And then this photo here is my host family that I stayed with while I was there. And so that's a huge part of this program, as well as being not only immersed in the culture, but getting to look at what the family dynamics are like in a completely different country. And so that was really the best part for me. And the last thing that I want to talk about, relevance for the future. So really the Galapagos experience refined my skills as a scientist, mainly because of the independent research projects that we ended up doing. It really serves as great practice for master's programs and PhD programs, because you have to walk through each of the steps. You know, what methods am I going to use? How am I going to do this? What does fieldwork look like? And how am I going to analyze my data? And then you also have to generate really high quality assignments under a short time frame. So Dr. Schmale mentioned these classes are only 2 weeks long, but they count as a semester-long class. So you can imagine the amount of work that you have to be putting in those 2 weeks to be getting this credit. So that it required a strong work ethic and really good time management skills, which these sea lions over here clearly did not have. But yeah, so it just really a fantastic experience overall. I love talking about it, as Rebecca and Dr. Schmale have said. So if you've got any questions, we'll do Q&A later, but I put my email. You can feel free to reach out there, or my Instagram if you want to keep up with my, my current adventures. So thank you.
Thanks, John. That was great. Personally, I think the sea lions actually have the time management figured out, and that's what I'm planning for my future. All right, now it's a real pleasure to introduce Dr. Evan D'Alessandro, who is the director of our Master of Professional Science program and has been also teaching in the Galapagos for many years. And he's been back from the Galapagos now for how long, Evan? About 48 hours? Yeah, all right, so fresh from the Galapagos.
Thank you very much, Mike. And now for something completely off topic. So please forgive me. I have to plug the program that I run. So what the heck is an MPS? What's a Master's of Professional Science? Give it up for the Masters of Professional Science. Okay, so the Masters of Professional Science is an accelerated master's program focusing on practical skills that seeks to really get our students out into the working world and earning money as quick as possible. But the really unique thing about this degree, and I promise this does tie back into the Galapagos, please don't go to sleep yet. Admissions are based solely on the merit of the student. So if you know anything about traditional advanced degrees, master's and PhD degrees, you can be the best student in the world. If you don't have a match with a faculty, and importantly, a match with a faculty who has the funds to pay you, you won't be accepted. This program opened the door to a whole bunch of students that wouldn't have otherwise been able to come to Rosenstiel for an advanced degree. So, a really wonderful program. It was established in 2010. I've been working with the program since its inception, but I've actually been, without dating myself, I've actually been with Rosenstiel since 2001. So, I was one of the people that went through school with Sarah Meltzoff as a professor and with Johan as a classmate. And so I kept hearing about Galapagos, Galapagos, Galapagos. Everybody's going to Galapagos. You got to go to Galapagos. I was doing all my work in the Florida Keys. The water temperature never gets below 73, 74. I heard about how cold it could get there. I wanted nothing to do with the Galapagos. Finally, in 2012, I had the opportunity to go and take some students and do some work on the mangroves down there. I absolutely loved it. The place is charming. The conservation story and ecotourism story there is absolutely incredible. So when I was tapped with the honor of running the Masters of Professional Science program in 2016, suddenly Johan popped up and he said, hey, you run a program? I got this thing. You want to come down and see what it's all about? I said, I've been there already. Sure. Let's do this. And so was born the Galapagos Ecology, Conservation, and Ecotourism, which is the class that I now teach for the MPS program. But it's not just for MPS students, it's for any students of Rosenstiel. It's only 2 weeks long, so it's not a full semester like the undergraduates get to enjoy. We do stay at a hotel, not with host families, because we didn't think the students would really get past that awkward stage in 2 weeks. But we really do jam-pack it with a comprehensive curriculum of ecology, conservation, ecotourism. The students get to visit all the same sites that the undergraduates get to visit. They even do outreach and community events with the people living there. So we've really jam-packed this as much as we can in the 2 weeks that we have going on. So far, we've had 139 students, over 10 offerings of the class since 2017. And this year, for the first time, we've introduced a marine mammals of the Galapagos led by Dr. Maria Cardellano. And with that number of students, we're actually over 150 students now that we've taken to the Galapagos. So this is just some photos of some of the students that we've had down there. I think Johan's in at least some of these. There's Johan right there. Teaching his side, the ecology and the conservation and ecotourism side of things. And then this is the class that just returned days ago. I got back on Sunday, stayed a little bit longer. And I have a secret about this photo. There's a criminal in this photo, unfortunately. So one student right here is sitting in the front row. She loved the Galapagos so much that last year she did the UGalapagos program as an undergrad. And then when she found out about the marine mammal class that was offered, she enrolled in that, went back, and exceeded her 90-day limit set by the Ecuadorian government, and actually exceeded her limit and broke the law in that sense. But there was no consequence. It's okay. She was able to join us here today. So, without further ado, you guys don't want to hear about this class from me. I'd rather introduce Miss Eliana Bucay and have her talk about her experience in the Galapagos.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Alessandro. I made it back. So, I'll be talking about my experience twice living in a living laboratory. So, Galapagos, to me, UGalapagos, was so much more than just a study abroad experience. And I wanted to begin with a quick video that I feel really captures the essence of UGalapagos.
3, 2, 1.
So just as I was completely immersed by a giant bait bowl of Salima, the Galapagos was an opportunity to become entirely immersed within a local community and its unique ecosystems. We lived with host families, as you can see there, and also participated in community service projects. So we spent 3 months on Isabela Island and participated in that time in 5 field courses. So I was in the Galapagos with John, actually. We've become very close friends, and he went into detail about some of those field courses. But I can say that during that time, thanks to our incredible professors, we really learned to appreciate every reptile, every rock, every wrasse, everything that the archipelago had to offer. It feels living there something like a video game or a storybook. Imagine that you have the map and there's clouds covering everything. And as you move from one place to another, the clouds lift and you get to check off something else, a new island, a new terrain, something completely different. So part of what made the Galapagos so special was the amazing abundance of life which we were able to learn from. During Dr. Mike Schmale's marine ecology class, we spent a lot of time in the water, and we didn't have to go very far from the classroom to have some amazing animal encounters.
This scene feels like what I once saw on a screen. I searched a borealis screen. I've never seen someone lit from within, blurring out my periphery.
And of course, lots and lots of sharks, which we could also learn from. So the animal life in the Galapagos was absolutely incredible, one of my favorite parts of the experience. And part of what's difficult with being a college student is that eventually graduation kind of sneaks up on you. And as an undergraduate, I didn't think a whole lot about what was coming next until I was in the Galapagos and I was reminded of why I wanted to study marine biology in the first place. So in the Galapagos, I was thinking, okay, maybe I should apply to grad school. What am I going to do? And here's a clip from the day that I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So that day, I applied to the marine mammal science track of the MPS program. But it wasn't actually the whale that made me want to do that. It was the moments after the whale swam away, when I was celebrating in the water with my peers who had become my best friends, and you can imagine what a bunch of college students that just swam with a whale sound like. I mean, we were screaming, we were crying, we were so incredibly excited. And it was in those moments that I realized the power of shared experience and the potential for impact and conservation that such wildlife encounters can have, sharing those experiences. And that was the moment that I knew exactly how I wanted to pursue my further education and hopefully eventually my career. So but really what made the Galapagos most special to me was becoming best friends with the peers that I initially went with. So being surrounded by individuals who not only are like-minded and have common goals, but they're the people that you're leaning on, because it's not always an easy semester. It's the people that you're sharing every experience with, both learning and personal. And it was during that time that those friendships, as well as our experiences with our incredible professors, showed me how those shared experiences could help us to contribute together towards an ecological future. So I loved the Galapagos so much, and I had to go back, and I was able to do so as a part of Dr. Maria Cardellano's Marine Mammals of the Galapagos course, which was an absolutely incredible experience. We focused on sea lions there. And I was surprised by how much I still didn't know about the islands after living there for 3 months. I thought I knew everything, but turns out there was so much more to learn, so much more to see, so much more to absorb. And I also got to share it with a new group of students, a new group of friends, which was so incredibly rewarding going back. And I also spent a lot of my time there with my host family. We still keep in very close touch, and with local island friends. So Isabela still feels just like home, even a year later. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Eliana. That was great. I really appreciate it. Okay, now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our next speakers. But before I do, I just wanted to say that it's sort of with mixed feelings because, as Dean Ben said, I'm retiring in a few months, and my wife, Lynn Fieber, who's sitting over there, was a professor for many years and also taught since 2010 the Galapagos. 2025, last spring, was our last time teaching there. And during that time, we trained our replacements, which was great fun, a little sad at times, but now we're really, really happy to turn our 2 courses in this program over to our next speakers, Rachel Hoyer and Richard Coleman, who are going to tell you a little bit about what they see as the future of our Galapagos program. So, guys.
Hi, everyone. I want to start off by just probably speaking on behalf of both of us to just say how excited and fortunate we are. We feel like we won the teaching lottery assignment for this. Of course, it's one thing to go once to this storybook place, but to be able to have the privilege of going every year is even more exciting. So thinking about the future, we really have our jobs made easy for us by the foundation that's been laid over the last 15 years by a fantastic group of instructors, some of which you've heard about today. And kind of as Richard and I move forward, we really see this at the nexus of thinking about courses, research, and community engagement, which has already been touched upon by both the students and Dr. Schmale. And I just wanted to provide a couple of examples of how research has been integrated with teaching and how we want to continue doing this going forward. So as we've seen before, in the bottom left is a picture of the iconic marine iguana. Dr. Fieber has been doing research on these lovely animals for many, many years now. And I just wanted to show a few pictures here just showing this really pristine nesting site that Dr. Mike Schmale already mentioned. In this nesting site, the females come once a year. They all come to these large aggregations. And in these aggregations, we're able to monitor not only how many are showing up each year, which is important because we can correlate that with events like El Nino, but we also can get the students involved in this type of research. So what you're going to see here on the video on the left is one type of behavior that the students can quantify in their independent projects. These are 2 females having an aggressive interaction. So this is just one example of the type of research the students can do when they're in the Galapagos. And in addition, Richard's going to touch on this as well, but one part that's really great is going forward, we have this great vision of students being involved in research, but it's really based and rooted in the fact that we have decades of research that's already been collected. So everything the students are doing going forward is going to be able to be related to past experiences. So in addition to being able to do research on marine iguanas, literally steps outside of their homestays and outside of that IOI facility, one other really unique feature of working in the Galapagos and being able to do both research and teaching is that we have access to these really pristine sites that very few people get to see, one of which here is Seymour Norte. And while we see some of the more iconic species here, like this frigate bird and the Galapagos tortoise, the students are also able to really gain an understanding of some of the more rare endemic species, plant species, for example, that are only found in the Galapagos and nowhere else. And I think having that understanding of the fragility of an ecosystem and just how pristine it can be is something we really hope to keep instilling in our students going forward. And I guess with the picture on the right here, I kind of struggled to really encapsulate what Richard and I were able to observe with the students when we were shadowing last year to kind of learn how to teach this course. And this picture really brought it home for me, even though it seems very casual. So these students have been biking uphill for 4 to 6 hours to get up to this particular historic site. They are sweaty, they're hot, but on the way they've seen a number of extremely rare plant species. They've seen Galapagos tortoises. They get to the top of this really big hill, and what they're doing right here is they're listening to a national park ranger tell a very personal story about how his family is connected to this historic site that they're visiting called the Wall of Tears. And it was in this moment, I'm seeing these students, they're hot and they're sweaty and they're tired, but they're happy, they're excited. And I think that's really what Richard and I want to continue, is really thinking about that experience of combining biology, geology, all of the different subject academic areas, but incorporating this cultural component that we both really value. So I've told you a little bit about the land-based kind of research areas and how students are involved. And I'm now going to hand it over to Richard. We're going to travel now underwater.
Yeah, so Rachel did a really great job of introducing what's happening in the terrestrial environment. But I wanted to show this map to highlight a few things. One is that we're not just stationary where we're doing our activities and where we're doing our research. So we have our host institution right here, but throughout the time that the students are in the Galapagos, are actually visiting different areas around the Galapagos, and that's quite special. I have colleagues that also teach courses in the Galapagos that I went through grad school with, and they're all usually limited to just one area. And so the UGalapagos program is giving students access to a variety of different environments that other universities are not able or are not providing for their students. And this is really unique and really important because from a terrestrial perspective, we know that the Galapagos is this evolutionary hotbed, right? This is where Darwin started. In terrestrial environment, each of these different areas are really isolated environments from one another. So you're gonna find unique species in each of these different areas. But when we go into the marine environment, those ecosystem boundaries aren't as obvious. There's no physical barrier to indicate when an ecosystem ends and when a new one begins. But by being able to access these different areas, we're able to see where new ecosystems might be formed. So in the upper left corner, we have a video image of a reef in the lagoon for La Concha that Mike had originally talked about. This would be based over here in this area. And yeah, it's coral dominated. You see a couple of different damselfish, which contrasts very differently from what we're seeing here in the lower left or lower right. And so this is in this area actually over here on Floriana, which is more influenced by oceanic environments. So we're seeing a lot of biomass, these really large schools of fishes. And so if we just remain stationary in this area off of Isabela, we wouldn't really see the students wouldn't really see this contrast in the different ecosystems that exist. And one of the things that we want to incorporate and ensure that the students are, as they go through the course, is that this isn't simply just observational work. So John and Rebecca had mentioned that there's a really intensive research component to this, and so we're going to continue to strive to incorporate this. And so as part of this research, they're responsible for developing an independent research project. So they're coming up with their own hypothesis, based off of the observations that they've had. They come up with their own methods. They do the data collection themselves. So each of those locations, those stars that were on the previous map, we're snorkeling for hours at a time. They're doing their surveys. And they compile all the information and analyze it. And then they end up presenting it in a short write-up and then a short presentation that they do to the class. Which is really beneficial because they're taking their developing skills are going to be able to be transferred to real world settings, like in a job, or if they're using that as a tool to be able to get into grad school or desirable traits. But in addition to that, beyond just what they're doing for their coursework, is some of the information is being used for long-term data sets. So Dr. Schmale has been collecting and compiling survey data since 2016. And here we can see we're looking at the total number of species. So this is fish specifically, so the total number of fish. We're looking at it by different regions that we're doing the surveys, and then by year. And so the students that are contributing to these surveys, some of this information is going to be compiled into a real-world data set, and so real-world scientific data set. So information from this could be used to really understand what's happening across time and also across space, so looking at different regions of the Galapagos and being able to use that information to understand the ecological processes and how that might be changing through time. Another component of the Galapagos program is incorporating a community service aspect. And so one of those tasks is monitoring and IDing invasive species. And so the students that are involved in this program get familiar with the different invasive species. They go out, this is that area near IOI, and monitor to see and observe the changes in invasive species. And invasive species are a huge ecological threat to the Galapagos Islands. And so as it's been sort of previously discussed and focus on is that the Galapagos is a really sensitive environment. All the species that are found there have evolved in isolation, and it's a really, really fine balance. And so when species come in and invade an area, it really disrupts that fine scale balance. And it's really important to understand and document when invasive species are coming in. And so what's really great about this program for the Galapagos and this community service is that the data that's being collected to monitor marine invasive species is being conducted entirely by the students. And so the students are IDing the species, recording their presence, and we're taking that information, compiling it, analyzing it, and then presenting that to local managers. So this is a link between students learning different methods and it being applied to a real world setting in terms of allowing the managers to move forward with how they want to be able to move forward with the presence or absence of different invasive species. And so this is an example occurring in the marine environment, but Dr. Here has a really great one that's been occurring in terrestrial environments as well.
I can't take a whole lot of credit for this one because this is Dr. Fieber, who's in the audience here. But information that students have, and Dr. Fieber have participated in to learn about iguanas and their patterns of movement and their nesting patterns has led to the construction of a fence. So this whole area that you're seeing in front of you, before the fence was up, people could walk across it. So people were kind of always, maybe unknowingly, walking on iguana nests and kind of potentially killing the eggs. So research from this program and in conjunction with the students actually constructed this fence. And this was not only the students, but them communicating with local community members, taking that information, integrating it, and also having close communication with the Galapagos National Park. So again, really taking this connection between the classroom all the way through to conservation management. And like Richard said, him and I very much hope to do this going forward, but everyone else has made our job easy already. We really just are looking forward to continuing this and hopefully providing even more examples of this down the road. And to really conclude, one thing that really struck me when I was thinking about preparing for this Sea Secrets was just how incredibly special it is for students to be able to walk in an area and see very similar environments and very similar species that the same scientists that basically came up with the concepts underlying evolutionary biology saw hundreds of years ago. And so it's just a really special experience for them. You've heard that firsthand. And we're really excited and very fortunate, very privileged that we get to be a part of the team that gets to continue carrying that forward into the future. We really hope that this has instilled a sense of environmental stewardship and cultural awareness in the students, which I think is reflected in the experiences you've heard tonight. And yeah, we just want to conclude by saying thank you for your support and thank you for coming. We love being there, we love going there, the students love it, and we are so excited to continue carrying this forward. And with that, we are happy to take questions, not only for Richard and I, but for any of the other panelists.
Go up to them.
All right, we'll take questions from the audience now for any of the speakers. And I'll start by asking and answering the first question. Dr. Schmale, how can I go to the Galapagos with you? All right, it's a multi-part answer. First of all, we'll help you to apply to our undergraduate or graduate programs. And as marine science students, you'll be eligible to enroll in this program. In addition to, of course, going there as a tourist on your own. But the other thing I wanted to mention is a little plug for our NGO there, IOI. If you look at their website, ioi.ngo, you can see that they have opportunities for volunteerism and internships there. So check it out. All right, questions?
Very
yes.
quickly. Oh.
Sorry.
Very quickly, do you find plastics affecting the area around the Galapagos? The way they seem to be affecting around our country and Europe?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we do surveys for trash on the beach there. That's one of the community service projects, and we see trash from all over the world. I mean, the Galapagos is in an area where, as you could see from the current patterns, it mostly gets currents from South America, but with all the fishing boats and cruise ships, we see plastics from all over the world. Yeah. Let's see, you had your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful presentations. Yeah, congratulations to all of you, and very exciting. In terms of community impact, I'm interested to see how you involve the local community and maybe also share the research with them, give them opportunities for research, and sort of build a very strong integrated partnership.
It's a great question, and I'll take that one as well. I don't want to, hog all the answers here, but I think that, I'm probably better able to answer that one. So we have a very tight relationship with the community. The NGO we work with, IOI, funds a lot of community programs, and our students help with those programs. Sometimes it's teaching English or doing other projects in the school. Sometimes it's helping the national park with invasive species monitoring and removal. And every year, those of us who have research permits, which is me and Lynn and a few other people, and they're going to be taken over by Rachel and Richard, we make presentations to the national park, and we also make presentations to the community where people have a chance to ask us about our research, and we get feedback from the park, and they ask us questions, and then we provide an annual report to the park. So we really think it's essential, and they think it's essential too, that we have this two-way communication about what it is we're doing. And when we go on field trips, we either have a park ranger with us if we're working on a research permit, or we have a local guide. And so we're constantly trying to educate the rangers and educate the guides. I mean, a lot of them are really experts in these ecosystems. They're all very well trained, but they can always learn more, and we learn from them as well. Hope that answers your question.
Hi there. Whoa. Woo. I was a theater kid, I can project.
All right.
As we all know, living in Miami, there is often a conflict between economic development and conservation and preservation. And one of the things that struck me in the course of the presentations, all of which were wonderful, thank you very much, was a comment about the airport expansion. And I wonder what the local community thinks about that, local stewards of the environment, how they feel about it, and are we in danger of loving the Galapagos to death?
I guess I'll take that one because my class kind of covers all of this kind of thing. Johan is really the expert on this kind of stuff, but I'll answer it as best as I can. Knowing many members of the community there and having some friends, longtime friends in the Galapagos now, much of the community actually is in favor of the airport expansion. Reason being, they don't feel that expanding the airport in Isabela is going to increase the overall numbers of people visiting the Galapagos. Unfortunately, everybody that comes to the Galapagos flies into either San Cristobal or Santa Cruz. And so this keeps a lot of the tourists and a lot of the tourist dollars out of Isabela. And they want the same economic opportunities as everybody else in the rest of the Galapagos. But as we all know, ecotourism, any kind of tourism, is not a magic pill. It's almost a Pandora's box, right? And the number of visitors to the islands has been increasing exponentially every single year. There was a slight lull during COVID, but now it's right back where it was on the same trajectory. There's a lot of people going there. But I will say that the Galapagos, in particular, is doing an amazing job of trying to keep the negative impacts of tourism under control. They really do appreciate what they've got there, and they're doing their very, very best to keep it preserved. Over 95% of the Galapagos Islands is national park with no one there, and nobody's allowed to go there, right? So only a very small percentage is actually occupied by the 4 main villages that are in the Galapagos. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Do you mind if I do a quick follow-up?
Absolutely.
And no offense to the sponsor this evening, but are there cruise lines?
There are many cruise lines, some of which are owned, or at least were originally owned by Galapagos people who have lived there for a very long time. Many of the cruise lines are international cruise lines, and so people have mixed feelings about the cruise lines as well. And that is because the cruise tourism, many of those dollars that are spent on that do not stay in the Galapagos themselves, right? Many of them go back to Quito or to other international companies. But if you do really want to see a lot of these far, far out remote places in the Galapagos, there really is no substitute to going on a cruise. Absolutely.
Yeah, Good evening. I just want to thank you guys for the presentation. I just want to say, is it possible, and I don't know if you guys have thought about this, but to take this type presentation to the younger generation so that they learn about these type programs at the University of Miami, possibly through the school system. I don't know if you guys, I see these cute little videos. If you can make a video or something that you can present to the school system to say, get this information out to the seniors, to the juniors, so that they learn about programs offered through the university. I don't know if you guys already have something that exists, but I think this is an excellent, an excellent presentation and an excellent opportunity to learn about programs offered.
Thank you so much for that question. I'm going to jump in here, Ben, if you don't mind. But my name is Deanna. I'm the Director of Communications. Everything that was happening tonight has been streamed. It's been recorded for posterity. We will be doing a lot more of this kind of content. The best way is also our students who represented us tonight. I urge you to follow them. They put up their Instagram. This will be on Facebook. It'll be on YouTube, so you can share it with all your friends. And yes, our goal with our new outreach and education coordinator, Katie Eaton, are you here? Yep. Katie, stand up. We will be reaching much younger audiences. Thank you.
Great, and I think Myron, did you have a question? Hi, Myron.
Yes, Mike. Evan, Mike, I don't have a question. I have a little information. It might be fun to expose your students to damsel.org, and they could look under Ecuador, Galapagos, and they could see the ancestors of some of the critters you showed tonight on your presentation, which was very wonderful. So you could see the 1980 version of the fur seal and the lizards and all the underwater creatures that exist in the Galapagos.
Great. Okay, thanks for that suggestion, damselfish.org. All right.
It belongs to the school, so it's right on your website.
Right. Great suggestion. Thank you, Myron. Yes?
Good evening. Thank you. This has been a wonderful set of presentations. This was on my bucket list to go. It's still on my bucket list.
Don't miss it.
So my question is for John. Part of what you talked about was doing surveys in Spanish. And of course, you're embedding students in families that speak Spanish. Is it a requirement to speak Spanish to go, or is it something you learn?
Yes, that's a great question. I'll stand up. So it's not a requirement to know Spanish before going, because I think there was a concern that that would limit people from applying to the program and not wanting to go. Part of the application process, you'll put how comfortable you are speaking Spanish and what your knowledge is in the language, so that you can be put with a host family that can kind of match that level of Spanish. However, in our experience, in our cohort's experience, there are a lot of the families don't speak very much English, and so what I've told people, what I suggest to people is even just hopping on Duolingo or another language learning app like a month or two before you go, just to learn some basics, can be really helpful and really make the program a lot more impactful, because a huge part of it is that cultural immersion, and it's difficult to communicate with people if you don't speak the same language. You know, even with Google Translate and things like that, it becomes much more genuine if you can connect in the same language. So, yeah, great question.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. It's a very insightful presentation. And I'm very curious about cross-cultural challenges, meaning misunderstanding the culture of the area. I'm familiar with Ecuador and Ecuadorian culture, but I'm sure those people who live in that island are somewhat different from the culture of the mainland Ecuador. Am I mistaken? And how do you deal with those cultural challenges of such a unique place?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and it's something that I'll admit as a professor I don't deal with as much as the people in our NGO who are working with the community and taking care of all of our logistics and things like that. But it is complex because the people who live in Galapagos come from all over Ecuador. And most of them have not lived there a long time. There are some that have been there a couple generations, but the Galapagos wasn't really even settled very much until the 1940s and 50s. And so it's not like there's 100 years of history in Galapagos human civilization. There's not. And so it's also a very evolving culture. If you went there 20 years ago, let's say if you went there 30 years ago, it might all have been about commercial fishing and exploiting the resources. And then things started to shift more towards ecotourism, and then there was a huge conflict between tourism and commercial fishing, and with the Park Service in the middle trying to make regulations and people trying to figure out what they needed to do to survive. So it really is an incredible laboratory for those kinds of conflicts. People want to be able to exploit the habitat to make a living, but if they really exploit it, then they kill the golden goose that makes the Galapagos unique. So it's a really tricky situation, and there are these different stakeholder groups. And every time you turn around, you're running into perhaps a different group. Like this person is a coffee farmer. That person runs a restaurant, and they don't know why they can't get fish to serve in their restaurant because now the Park Service says the fishing season is closed. So it is a very complicated environment, and that's one of the things that the first course every year, political ecology, is teaching the students about. One more? Okay, one more question?
Yes.
Yes.
One more
Hi.
question. We just came from the Galapagos, and I was surprised that I haven't heard about the tremendous success of the conservation of the Galapagos turtle.
About the Galapagos tortoise?
Yes.
Yes.
We went to the Darwin's Research Center, and they are covered by a small Galapagos tortoise.
Yep. I mean, that the Galapagos National Park and the Charles Darwin Foundation have been doing amazing work with repatriating tortoises, raising more tortoises. We have a tortoise breeding center on Isabela as well, and we have some of our students do their community service in the tortoise breeding center. So it is a big part of the conservation programs of the islands, and it has been a huge and very complicated success story. So it's been a good one. But we couldn't cover everything today.
With that, we're going to close it out with Dean Kurtman. We can continue the conversation at the reception. Aren't you hungry yet?
So let me just take a moment to thank all of our speakers. Really fantastic job, but in particular, I wanted to call out our three students. Really thank them for coming out and sharing their experiences there. So I promise to be extremely brief because I'm in between you and the reception. So I just wanted to remind you, February 10th, mark your calendars. Elizabeth Colbert is going to be here for Sea Secrets. She's going to be having a really interesting conversation with Kerry Sanders. That's a name you might be familiar with. He's a reporter formerly with NBC. I don't know where he is now, but he does a lot of environmental reporting. It's going to be a really fantastic presentation and an interesting conversation. So I urge you to come for Sea Secrets February 10th. So please, enjoy the reception.